What if the Titanic had avoided hitting an iceberg? April 14th, 1912. A calm, starlit night on the North Atlantic. The RMS Titanic, the pride of the White Star Line, sails smoothly toward New York. Ice warnings had been received throughout the day, but Captain Edward Smith remains confident. The ship's speed continues at nearly full steam. Suddenly, a lookout spots a dark shape ahead. An iceberg. Crew members rush to turn the wheel. The ship groans as it pivots hard to port. But this time, it's enough. The iceberg passes just meters from the ship's hull. No metal scrapes, no rivets buckle, no cold seawater seeps inside. The Titanic sails on, her passengers blissfully unaware of how close they came to disaster. Days later, the Titanic arrives triumphantly in New York Harbor. The wealthy elite disembark first, with passengers like John Jacob Astor IV and Benjamin Guggenheim basking in media attention. Survivors who, in another timeline, would have met tragic ends instead celebrate a smooth voyage. Newspapers hail Titanic as an indestructible marvel, the true ship of dreams. The myth of her unsinkability only grows stronger, but beneath the celebration lies something more dangerous: arrogance. The Titanic's safe arrival reinforces a dangerous belief: that modern engineering has conquered nature itself. The White Star Line expands its fleet, commissioning even larger vessels with fewer lifeboats to save deck space. Safety regulations remain unchanged, as maritime authorities dismiss concerns about icebergs and poor safety practices. The Titanic's designer, Thomas Andrews, becomes a celebrated figure. But unknown to him, the Titanic's close call masked deeper flaws: weak rivets, inadequate bulkheads, and a design that could have spelled doom had fate been just slightly less kind.
In 1916, 2 years later, another luxury liner, RMS Britannic, Titanic's sister ship, embarks on a transatlantic journey. Confident in Titanic's track record, White Star Line management pressures the captain to maintain top speed through foggy waters near the coast of Greece. But this time, luck runs out. The Britannic strikes a submerged mine, and with bulkheads just as weak as Titanic's, she sinks within 55 minutes. Over 500 lives are lost. Suddenly, the maritime world is forced to reckon with the fact that Titanic's survival was pure chance, not superior engineering.
With no Titanic disaster in 1912 to galvanize reform, new safety regulations are delayed. Radio operators, often understaffed or ignoring warnings, continue their careless practices. Lifeboat capacity remains dangerously inadequate. Maritime complacency allows flawed ship designs to continue for years. When a large passenger liner sinks in 1923, killing over 1,000 people, the world is shocked. A public outcry forces sweeping reforms. But years later than they might have occurred. The International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, SOLAS, isn't created until the late 1920s, instead of the immediate reforms that followed Titanic's real-life sinking. Without Titanic's tragic story, the world loses one of its most powerful cautionary tales. The legends of selflessness, like the band playing until the end or the stories of brave passengers sacrificing their spots on lifeboats, are never told. The public forgets how deadly arrogance and social inequality can be in moments of crisis. James Cameron never makes his iconic film, and Titanic's tragic love story never becomes part of pop culture. The haunting image of the ship vanishing beneath icy waves never cements itself in the public imagination. Instead, Titanic is remembered as a symbol of triumph, a technological marvel that defied disaster. Had Titanic survived, the social dynamics on board may have created new tensions. Reports of class divides, where first-class passengers received more privileged treatment while third-class travelers struggled with limited accommodations, would likely spark controversy. Would public outcry have challenged these injustices, or would such inequalities have persisted unchecked? Titanic's successful voyage might even have amplified the power of the elite. The ultra-wealthy passengers, spared by chance, would return home to influence politics and business, potentially delaying progressive social changes. When World War I erupts in 1914, Titanic's survival might have shifted public sentiment. Instead of symbolizing human hubris and vulnerability, the ship's successful voyage would reinforce a belief in Western dominance and technological supremacy. Titanic's legend would become one of pride, not tragedy, encouraging recklessness on the battlefield and blind faith in flawed strategies. In our timeline, Titanic's wreck was discovered in 1985, resting silently at the bottom of the Atlantic. It became a powerful reminder of the lives lost and a symbol of human error. Without the iceberg collision, Titanic might have remained in active service for decades before eventually being retired or scrapped. The wreck of Titanic would never have become a haunting memorial, and deep-sea exploration would have lost one of its greatest scientific pursuits. The groundbreaking technology used to find Titanic may never have been developed, slowing innovations in underwater robotics and exploration. In the end, Titanic's survival may have seemed like a victory, but it would have concealed hard truths. Without her loss to humble the world, maritime travel may have grown increasingly reckless. Thousands of lives lost in subsequent disasters may have been preventable. Titanic's tragedy, painful as it was, forced the world to improve. Lifeboat regulations, wireless communication protocols, and iceberg patrol systems all emerged in direct response to the disaster. If Titanic had survived, humanity may have continued sailing blindly through icy waters, believing itself invincible, until another ship paid the price.